Percy, let's look at this Saudi Arabian thing. So when the season ended, even before the season ended, so the Emir of Saudi Arabia, the Sheikh of Saudi Arabia,
they don't have Emir.
They have the crown prince, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia. Before the Qatar World Cup was talking about changing the narrative about Saudi Arabia. If you've somebody that has followed the geopolitics, followed geopolitics for a while, and you are very rooted in the political circles, you know the narrative about Saudi Arabia, especially when the Jamal Khashoggi thing hit the global scene, where there's talk about, you know, the crown prince or even the throne has something to do with the death of Jamal Khashoggi. Yeah. So there's been a lot of negative press about Saudi Arabia, you know, issues about human rights abuse and all of that. That is politics. Trust me, if you know international politics, sometimes you will not buy a lot of the things you read from these media, or some of these media guys are so polarized based on their affiliation with one particular party or the other. So, but Saudi Arabia, on a whole, want to change the narrative about them, and they feel that one of the ways they can do that is by using sports, especially when they've seen how successful Qatar has used the World Cup to rebrand its image. Before the World Cup, we saw a lot of negative press about Qatar, human rights abuse, people dying and all of that. But when the World Cup started, the buzz and everything, now Qatar has become a huge tourist hub. A lot of investment has gone there. Saudi Arabia want to follow suit. They actually wanted to put in a bid for the 2030 World Cup, but they withdrew that bid. They want to grow their league. They want to build that reputation with sports and with football. And one thing that a lot of people do not know is that what they are doing is not just football, it's not just soccer. So in the last 10 years, what Saudi Arabia has done is that they've positioned themselves in global sport. Golf was a thing that was the authoritative body of golf was the United States. In terms of the country that runs major golf or the majors was the US. What Saudi has done is that now Saudi literally owns the stake in golf. They own golf right now. They've actually partnered, or they hold the majority stake in pro golf in the world. When it comes to the PGA and all the major golf events in the world, Saudi Arabia is deeply ingressed in it, and they own the major stake. So they have control in golf. Not just golf, even in NASCAR racing, Saudi Arabia has been able to organize major racing events, and now they've partnered the likes of McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull in terms of global events. So when it comes to sports racing too, they are there. Boxing, they've also done that with boxing. Partnered the major, enterprises and the major, players in boxing. Now, major boxing events will be held in Saudi Arabia and have already been held in Saudi Arabia. Then when it comes to entertaining sport, if you followed, WWE, realize that they have a tournament called, is it the Crown Prince Tournament or the Crown Jewel Tournament? I love my wrestling. The Crown Jewel Tournament is held in Saudi Arabia every year. They've actually bought a stake in that, and they want to use sports in general. So golf, they are there. And I mean racing, they are there. Boxing, they are there. I nearly forgot. MMA, mixed martial arts, major world title tournaments have been held in Saudi Arabia. So what we are seeing in football is not something that just sprang up.
No.
It's a strategic plan, and they actually do have a 20-year project to use sports, like I said, to change the narrative about the country Saudi Arabia. But the major talk is two things. We've heard a lot of people speak in the English press. Some believe that the EPL should try to stop Saudi Arabian clubs from invading their clubs or the league, taking out some of the best young talents, taking them. I don't know how that is going to be possible. I mean, you can't stop. I mean, this is the sports. That's fair play. Money talks. You can't stop them. But the narrative is that they are using football to wash their money. they are using football to hide some of their atrocious deeds, especially some of the owners of the club. And the word that has been bundled around is this is tantamount to sports washing. This amount to say, money laundering. This amount to human rights abuse and all of that. But what I want to ask the English, those that are propounding that narrative, is that you don't have an issue with Newcastle being owned by the Saudi club, and you're actually praising Newcastle. They've qualified for the Champions. They even bought, Newcastle last year they couldn't afford a €1 million player, but this year they bought Sandro Tonali for almost £70 million. City are being funded by oil money. United are now be hoping that they will get oil money to run their club. So please, when it suits you, you are okay. But when it goes against you, you are okay. Let's look at this. My question here is it sustainable? Because we saw Russia do it, Anzi Machkachala, and we
started talking about it last week.
Yes, and all of that.
Promised to go
China tried it, United States tried it, they couldn't sustain it. As we speak, Guangzhou Evergrande is in huge debt. It's the government that has
Shanghai SIPG, Shanghai Shenhua.
Is this sustainable?
Okay. Now, I started talking about it last weekend. We promised this week to really delve deep into it. So, just like you said, sports doesn't stand in isolation. Sports goes with geopolitics, sports goes with arts, sports goes with music and everything. If you would want to understand it, you have to understand the origins of this whole thing. Who is spearheading it? Where is the funding coming from? What are their projections? So first, we'll start with who is spearheading it and when did it start? It is spearheaded by the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman. We know that Saudis are people who probably are not really a Western style. They are not also the Eastern style. They are should I say, Islams, and they have their own ideologies and everything. But how come they are buying into all of this? It has to come from the 32-year-old or so Mohammed bin Salman.
Very young.
He is actually not the one supposed to be the crown prince. If you, like you say, if you really follow, we are here to be very educative. His father, that is his father, who is also King Salman, actually got the kingship from his brother, his half-brother, who died at age 90, King Abdullah. When he died, there was someone who was supposed to be crown prince, that his dead brother actually put him in place and made him king. When he became king, his first action that he took was to remove the person who was supposed to be the crown prince and put a different person there. He's also called Muhammad. He was the crown prince, so King Salman was the king in 2015. That's when his brother died. Yeah. From 2015 to 2017, this Mohammed bin Salman, by then, he was a 25-year-old man who was the first child of the third wife of the current king. The king actually has married 3 times. First one died. Second one was divorced. Third one is this. He has 8. So this is the second child. Now, he has rise through the ranks from military, from the, from the being...
He has a solid business background.
Yes, he has actually been the head of Saudi Aramco. That is the second biggest company in the world after...
refining company.
It's even the second biggest company in the world after Apple.
Yeah.
They are worth over 2 trillion. Ghana's whole economy is 270 billion.
Please, let's not go there.
Let's continue.
When you mention this money, I feel like probably I'm on a different continent.
So it moves from there. Then between 2015 and 2017, the rightful person who is supposed to be the crown prince was removed again by King Salman. He removed him on the basis of treason, which everybody thinks that, okay, then probably it might not be. He really wants his son to be there. Yeah. Because the person he removed would have become king. So he removed him, and actually he's still under house arrest. Yeah. He's suffered a lot of assassination attempts, so now he's no longer there. Now when bin Salman came in 2017, then he started drawing the plan for Saudi Arabia. Yeah. His father actually made him like prime minister and left everything. His father is around 87-year-old. So he is the one in charge. Now being in charge, that's what we're saying. Then he started, how do we take away this notion about Saudi Arabia?
The negative narrative.
Number one had to do with how women are being seen.
Yeah.
Women were never allowed
That's true.
to be in a stadium.
To drive and all those things.
He took away all of that. Number 2 was how women were portrayed.
Yeah.
You remember when Messi actually took a detour and went to Saudi Arabia to Jeddah?
Yeah.
Who actually met him? The Minister of Tourism.
It's a woman.
That is the cousin.
Yeah.
And usually it is not the woman who meet visitors.
Yeah.
And she met Messi not in hijab. She met Messi in jeans and Western style.
Yeah.
Another thing that he's also done, you talked about the match. Now we are even we are hearing things like Deontay Wilder and AJ.
The fight actually, if it's almost
almost
agreed on, and if it happens, it's actually going to take place in Saudi Arabia.
In Jeddah,
like I told you, they have a stake in world boxing, golf, and all these things. So it's not just football.
Let's continue.
So the English guys,
so now,
let's shut up.
The stage in terms of football, because that's what we are speaking to. In Saudi Arabia, they have something we call the Saudi Consolidated Fund.
Yeah.
That is worth almost 970 billion. I didn't say 97 billion. I said 970 billion.
In the words of, the great Professor Kuntu Blankson, the 70 on top of it, they should give it to me.
Now, this money, when we say consolidated, it's just a bit. It's more or less like.
Know what consolidated. We also have a consolidated.
Ours was the one that we were using the oil proceed that we got that we put down. I don't know whether it's still there.
It's dry.
Now they put it there. One of the uses of the consolidated fund was buying a stake in the top 5 teams in Saudi Arabia: Al Nassr,
Al Hilal,
Al Hilal, Al Ali, Al Ittihad, and it seems another Al Ain also. Yeah. Now these are the 5. So with this, they have a 70% stake, and they've left the 30% for whether shareholders or whatever. So when they say they are coming to buy you, I told you that they have a deep pocket, and the most expensive team in the world in Real Madrid is around 6 billion. I'm talking about the 970 billion. That is how much they have. Now, they want to use the sport to actually show to the Western and the Eastern side of the world that they are not as they see them to be. Yeah. And it is not a matter of trying to push away their culture. For their culture, they won't change. No.
I mean,
that is what Qatar,
every country has its culture.
That is what Qatar showed the world, that no amount of pressure from the West. Yeah. Because in the World Cup, they stated clear, LGBT is tantamount to death. Yeah. We don't drink at the stadium. Budweiser was a major sponsor. But they said you buy the drink, you drink it in your room. We won't sell drinks.
Drink it outside.
We won't sell it outside. Yeah. They made it clear. And funny enough, they want Kane that if you wear the captain's band, you start with yellow card. Upon all the noise they made, they were not able to talk about. And when you talk about these things, and the next thing they want to also establish is that in the Gulf region is made up of about eight countries. Saudi Arabia being the biggest. There's Yemen, there is Oman, there is Bahrain, there is Qatar, and there is United Arab Emirates,
which a lot of people popularly known as Dubai.
And all of them have one thing in common: oil deposits. Yeah. The biggest of them being Saudi Arabia. They sit down and they don't understand why small countries like Qatar and UAE, being Dubai, being the